In a quiet, forgotten corner of the town stood an old mansion. The walls were covered in ivy and the windows were dusty and cracked. This mansion was known as Hollow Manor. For years it had been abandoned, but whispers filled the air. People said a ghost lingered within, a ghost of a woman who had a tragic story. Margaret was once a powerful executive. She was smart, ambitious, and determined to succeed. She lived in the big city, worked hard, and built a promising career. But her heart was heavy. She had been betrayed by the very people she trusted most, her husband, David, and his friends. They plotted against her to seize her inheritance, a large sum of money left by her late father. Margaret discovered the betrayal when she found secret messages on David's phone. He had been meeting with his friends while pretending to support her. Angry and hurt, she confronted him. David, a charming man, tried to deny everything, but Margaret knew the truth. In a rage, she threatened to leave him, revealing that she would expose their plans. As the days passed, the tension in the house grew. David and his friends were desperate. They didn't want to lose the money they had planned to take. Late one dark night, they devised a plan. While Margaret was busy at work, they waited in the mansion, ready to confront her. They thought they could scare her into submission. When Margaret returned home, she felt an unsettling chill. The air was quiet, too quiet. As she stepped inside the mansion, she saw shadows flicker across the walls. Suddenly, David and his friends appeared, their faces twisted with greed and anger. They talked loudly, demanding she give up her inheritance. Margaret stood her ground, refusing to back down. In the heat of the confrontation, David lost his temper. He was scared of losing everything, including Margaret. The argument escalated, and before anyone could react, a struggle broke out. David grabbed Margaret's arm and she fought back. In the chaos, a gun fired. Margaret fell to the floor, her life slipping away. David looked on in shock, realizing what had happened. He claimed it was self-defense, that she had attacked him first. The days following the tragic event were dark. David was arrested, but some in the town believed his story. They thought he acted out of fear and that Margaret was the true aggressor. The mansion, once a proud home, became a symbol of betrayal and heartache. People avoided it, whispering tales of the tragic lady who lingered within. But Margaret's spirit didn't leave. Her ghost wandered through the empty halls, lost and lonely. She watched as people came and went, sharing stories about her life and her death. They spoke of her ambition, her strength, and her tragic end. But they didn't know the whole truth, how she had been the one to orchestrate her death. In her last moments, as she lay on the cold, hard floor of the mansion, Margaret felt an overwhelming sense of betrayal. She was determined to punish David for his treachery. She had planted the seeds of her own doom, wanting him to feel the weight of her loss. She thought if she died, it would haunt him forever. As weeks turned into months, David struggled with the weight of his actions. He couldn't shake off the guilt. The thought that he had killed his wife haunted him every night. He felt her presence in the mansion, a cold whisper in his ear. Her anger filled the rooms, making him feel the walls closing in. His friends, once loyal, began to distance themselves, fearing they would be linked to the tragedy. Meanwhile, Margaret watched, trapped between the world of the living and the dead, shaping how her story would end. She was not the helpless victim, they thought. She had been strong and wanted justice, but she also wanted to see David suffer. Months passed, and finally the day of David's trial arrived. The town gathered in the courtroom, eager to hear the details. Margaret's family pressed charges, determined to show that David had coldly taken a life. During the trial, witnesses painted a picture of the night Margaret died. They described her as a strong, independent woman who was in the right. But as the defense called its witnesses, the story twisted. They spoke of Margaret's anger and jealousy, painting a portrait of a woman who had driven David to his breaking point. In the end, David was found not guilty. The jury believed he acted in self-defense. Margaret's family was devastated, feeling that true justice had escaped them. But Margaret's spirit remained. She roamed the halls of Hollow Manor, a gentle reminder of the fierce woman she had been. However, the tragic twist didn't end there. As David left the courtroom, celebrating the verdict, he felt a chill crawl up his spine. That night, he returned to the mansion to collect his things. But inside, he was met with an eerie silence. Suddenly he heard whispering echoes, the ghostly words sending shivers down his spine. "Margaret, you thought you could escape me, but I will haunt you forever." David fell to his knees, understanding now that he had not truly won. Margaret's spirit would never let him go. He would always be tormented by the shadow of his actions. Justice might not have been served in the eyes of the law, but in the chilling presence of her ghost, David's punishment had only just begun. In the darkness of Hollow Manor, the truth remained hidden, and the tragic story of Margaret would live on, whispered through the town for generations to come.